Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into a listener request today, and it's one that's close to a lot of hearts, I think. Retiring in the Philippines. At least I know I've seen those pictures, with the beaches and the water, and it seems so peaceful and relaxing, and maybe even a chance for romance. Who knows,
It's
right?
definitely a popular dream.
But let's be real for a sec, because it's really easy to get caught up in those, picture-perfect images. But we gotta be practical, right? Any big move takes some planning, and retiring abroad especially, you need a good dose of reality with all that dreaming.
I agree, 100%.
So that's why today we are diving deep into the story of Mark, who's an American expat who shared his experience on the Filipina Peas YouTube channel. Now, Mark thought he was prepared, he did his research, followed the Filipina Pea herself, but he learned some tough lessons about online dating, about scams, about just how important it is to be able to roll with the punches.
It's so important to hear those real stories because they remind us that things don't always go according to plan.
Exactly. So Mark, he was 54, medically retired, spent months researching the Philippines, and get this, he even had this whole red flag checklist for online dating. He really thought he had it all figured out.
And that's a really crucial point. We often hear about scams and think, oh, that would never happen to me. But Mark's story, it shows that even people who do their homework, they can still get caught off guard, especially when emotions come into play.
Oh, for sure. And emotions were definitely involved here.
Yeah.
So Mark meets this Filipino online, and she's checking all the boxes on his list. Not asking for money, introduces him virtually to her family, even meets him at the airport.
Sounds promising so far.
Right. They had this great first day, exploring the city, talking, laughing, seemed like the real deal. But then, well, things changed pretty drastically. Mark wakes up the next morning and she's gone.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Left a text saying she was overwhelmed and needed to think, but she also took $250 with her.
Now, $250, that's not a huge amount of money, thankfully. But that's not really the point here. It's the emotional hit. He was heartbroken, feeling betrayed more than robbed, really. And it highlights how these scammers use love bombing to their advantage, showering you with affection, making you feel like you've met the one. But it's all a calculated tactic to gain trust and exploit your desire for connection.
It's rough because it shows how vulnerable we can be when we're looking for love,
Yeah.
We want to believe the best in people. But okay, so that wasn't even the half of it for Mark. He had another curveball coming, and this one involved booking a hotel. He booked online, got his confirmation, even made sure the address was at least partially right, like the street name matched.
Okay, so he's trying to be careful. I see where this is going.
Yeah, it's one of those if it seems too good to be true situations. So he shows up at the hotel, all ready to settle in, and guess what? No hotel. Totally fake listing.
Oh, man. That's awful. Can you imagine? You're already reeling from this emotional blow, and then you're hit with this. It'd make anyone want to give up and go home.
Right. But here's where Mark's story takes another turn. He could have easily thrown in the towel, but he didn't. He found another hotel, legit this time, but even then, things didn't exactly go as planned. He'd booked online, paid online, thought everything was good to go, gets to the hotel, ready to finally relax, and they're like, cash only, please, and we'll be holding on to your passport until you settle the bill.
Oh, wow. See, that's a prime example of cultural differences that can really trip you up.
And it just kept getting more complicated, right? Because Mark found out his ATM cards weren't working. He'd contacted his bank beforehand multiple times, but here he was, stuck.
It really emphasizes the need for a solid backup plan.
Absolutely. Especially when you're talking about retiring abroad. You need multiple ways to access your money, a mix of cash and cards, and a plan for what to do if you have unexpected expenses, because things happen. That's life.
So true. Yeah, in some parts of the Philippines, especially when you're outside those main tourist hubs, cash is still king, even for hotels. Holding on to passports as collateral, not something you'd see as much in the West, but it's not unheard of in the Philippines, especially with smaller businesses.
Right. So it's like, in his mind, he's booked it, it's paid for, no problem,
Yeah.
right? And then, bam, unexpected hurdle. You can just picture the frustration mounting.
Totally. And I think it's a good reminder that what we consider standard practice isn't always universal.
It's all about adapting, right?
Exactly.
So he's dealing with this cash-only situation, and then to make matters worse, he realizes his ATM cards aren't working, and he called his bank before he left, multiple times even, but there he was.
It's like a perfect storm of inconvenience.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why having that backup plan is so crucial.
Absolutely.
Multiple ways to access your funds, a mix of cash, cards, knowing how to use local transfer services, it can make all the
It's
difference.
just smart.
Because when those unexpected expenses pop up, You want to be prepared.
Okay, so back to the passport situation. Holding on to passports, it's actually a pretty common practice in some places in the Philippines, right? Especially, like you said, those smaller hotels or guest houses, kind of as a security measure to ensure people pay their bills. But I can see how it would be a shock if you weren't expecting it.
Right, like you want your documentation. That's understandable.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting is how Mark handled it. Like, he gets it, he understands their perspective, but also advocates for his needs, explains he needs his passport to access more funds. Just that communication, even when you're frustrated, can be key.
Communication is everything, really.
It can bridge so many gaps.
So after 3 days, can you believe that 3 days of back and forth, and with a little help from a kind hotel employee who vouched for him, he finally gets his passport back?
The kindness of strangers can really make a difference in those situations.
It's huge.
Just someone to say, hey, I got you.
Okay, so just to recap here, because Mark has now dealt with a lot. He's experienced an online dating scam, dealt with a fake hotel booking, and then he's got these unexpected cultural and logistical hurdles thrown his way. And this is all within, what, a couple of weeks of arriving? You'd think that would be enough to send someone packing, wouldn't you?
Honestly, for a lot of people, it would be. But what's remarkable about Mark is his resilience. He goes through all of this, yet he's still determined to make the Philippines his home.
And that's what's so inspiring about his story. Because, and this is important, despite all of this, he still loves the Philippines.
It really speaks to the impact it had on him. And it reminds us that every place has its challenges, right? It's about finding a place that resonates with you, even with those bumps in the road.
And let's not forget about those moments of kindness that you mentioned, because they play a huge role in Mark's story, too.
They do?
He talks about the warmth and generosity of the Filipino people and how they really helped him through those difficult moments. The fact that he highlights those acts of kindness more than the negative, that says a lot.
It's a reminder that those positive connections can outweigh a lot of the negatives.
It just goes to show you, even when things get tough, there are always those good people out there willing to lend a hand.
Absolutely. And for me, that's what makes Mark's story so powerful. It's not just like a warning. It's a story about resilience, about adapting, about keeping an open mind. I mean, he went through a lot, but instead of letting it break him, he learned and grew from it.
He really did. He actually became an advocate for being informed, encouraging others to really do their research, about local customs, about scams, just to be prepared for anything. He doesn't shy away from the good, the bad, the ugly, which is so valuable.
I agree, because it's real. And real life, it's not always pretty, right? It's those unexpected moments that often turn into the most valuable lessons.
100%. So as we wrap up here, thinking about retiring in the Philippines, what are some key takeaways from Mark's adventure?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Okay, so first off, online dating, it can be amazing, but it has its risks. Doesn't matter where you are.
So true.
Be cautious, take your time, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Trust those gut feelings seriously. If something feels off, it probably is.
Your instincts are there for a reason.
Yes. And while you're researching those beaches and retirement havens, add common scams to your list. Know what to watch out for, not just in the Philippines, but anywhere you go. A little knowledge can go a long way in preventing headaches down the road.
Absolutely. Forewarned is forearmed.
Exactly. And speaking of preparation, backup plans are a must. For your finances and just logistically, too.
So important.
Have different ways to get to your money, a mix of cash and cards, know how to use local money transfer services, just in case. And hey, it wouldn't hurt to familiarize yourself with local transportation options, healthcare, maybe learn a few basic Tagalog phrases. Every little bit helps.
It all adds up.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the power of connecting with other expats. There are such great communities out there, online and offline, that offer incredible support and advice. They've been there, they get it.
That's a great point. And, maybe the biggest takeaway from Mark's story, at least for me, is to embrace the unexpected. Things will go wrong, it's inevitable, but it's how you adapt, how you learn, how you find the good in those tough moments that really matters.
Resilience at its finest.
Right. It's not about avoiding challenges, it's about how you handle them.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So go into it with your eyes open, a little bit of caution, but a whole lot of adventure. Embrace the unexpected, and who knows what you might discover about the Philippines and about yourself.
Love that.
Yeah.
The journey is just as important as the destination.
Right.
Sometimes even more so.
Couldn't agree more. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us today, and until next time, keep exploring.